for a variety of reasons. I don't expect you to, but I recommend that you watch this video log through to the end. It's 2:30 in the morning on January 21st, inauguration morning. I was sleeping well. My temporary retreat from the massive construction and security on Pennsylvania Avenue in the run-up to the inauguration, this retreat that began 4 or 5 days ago here in the overprivileged suburbs of Philadelphia with a kind friend and 2 other very kind families, has been very restful, very productive, very intense. My work hasn't continued. I've been at probably 200-300 calories per day, maybe 400, a quarter of the diet that can sustain one. By and large, my body has cooperated with strength, although several days have been largely sleeping. None of the pain of 14 months from the cancer has been in evidence since the operation and since the healing, although my major wound continues to seep a little bit, going on 2 months later, but nothing alarming. So it's been a very restful, yes, relative to being on the street, relative to being where the construction crews were waking me up at 11 at night, 3 in the morning, just by their intensity and noise and trucks and hand trucks and propane trucks. Great kindness, and personal kindness in the people around me. Great love. And all of that, I mean mostly spiritually peaceful and restful, in as much as the environment can be, while at the same time redoubling my efforts to keep my heart in the pain we see in the movie Avatar. Avatar is not about the future. Avatar is our last glimpse at what we're allowing today for our greed, our power, our corporate interests to steal the last bit of life from our mother, creation. I've redoubled my efforts to keep my heart possessed by that. My skills are pretty good now at keeping my heart possessed by that, and to my joy, and for my joy, it has continued. For the last 4 days, I've worked to assimilate deep in my nervous system the situation of our 204 billion children, 4 currently alive and 200 billion coming in succeeding generations. I've tried to deeply re-examine how my life, how my avatar is to be used to best serve them with each breath. And for most of the last 3-4 days, as I pondered it, the most likely scenario not my preferred scenario. I don't have a preferred scenario. The most likely scenario was that I would be ceasing this death fast. Because the two factors that gave me the hope to enter it were dissipating. I'm a soldier. I don't have preferences except to understand the field of battle and how I can best fight on it. Which is to say that, I suppose at some level I could be disappointed that the two reasons for me entering it were dissipating, but that's not the case that I feel disappointment. I just feel informed. As I've reported in the prior video log, there was a miraculous, not before seen in recent history, minuscule critical mass of heart massagers, true unviolent warriors, Diane Wilson, Bob Lindsay, Chief Teresa Spence, and her co-laborer an Indigenous brother from Western Canada, all on hunger strike from the heart. It was a tragically unique opportunity for me to join in solidarity and have some chance of being of help in that. And the other factor was the emergence of a larger indigenous, unviolent, but maybe militant uprising among our indigenous peoples, particularly in Canada, but also in the United States, with the promise of it spreading elsewhere. Well, rightly, as I've reported, Diane Wilson and Bob, several days ago, at day 46, ceased their life-threatening hunger strike. The goals they had were, as best they could calculate, satisfied, and they determined that humanity, creation, would be better served by their moving from that hunger strike at this time to other ways to serve for now. Chief Spence continues. Today would be day 42 for her, is day 42. In lower down in this post, or in the description of this video log, you'll find a link to an excellent video interview that Chief Spence gave yesterday. Clearly a grounded, heartfelt, sincere sister on this hunger strike. But there's no reason to think that she knows of my effort, therefore she can't draw any encouragement from it. And I'm too politically toxic, among other things, look at my face, to be of help to her, I'd much more likely be a political liability among those that want to discredit her. Oh, look at that freak on hunger strike with her. Too easy a target, and if I had reached her heart, that liability could be overcome, but there's no indication that she has any idea of what I'm doing. So, for those reasons, as my mind has cycled through different options, the most likely option was that I would be telling you that I was coming off of hunger strike, off of the death fast, to devote every particle of my being that I could, as it unfolds, to what may be the biggest development in American history since its founding, since the Declaration of Independence, since the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. And that's the forming of Organizing for Action. Isn't that what it's called? The organization to redeploy the army of us, that the citizen army from the center of this country that re-elected President Obama. This was an answer to a prayer I've had for 4 years. Do you know anyone that has put themselves, for what they are, completely on the line since 2007, declaring that President Obama is the greatest leader in the history of the world, saying it with total seriousness, saying it with a clarity that easily sets himself up for being dismissed? Do you know anyone that has taken that position without withdrawing it, even at the darkest times in the last 5 years? That's been my position since 2007. There's almost nothing that I know, there's almost nothing that I understand. Leadership is the exception to that. It's what I've studied and practiced my entire adulthood. High stakes, extremely complex situation leadership is what I've practiced and studied and been largely successful at for my adulthood, most of it in the computer industry. And through that lens, it's been clear to me that President Obama is the greatest we've ever seen. Well, he unleashed what I never ruled out but didn't see coming: Organizing for Action. Which may be the rebirth of democracy in America. Democracy is not a spectator sport, as I've practiced it up until this recent decade. It's not a spectator sport. Democracy is a spectator sport. Fascism is a spectator sport. But democracy is a participation sport. A hard contact war, a civil war, but possibly without the bloodshed. And we saw democracy in action briefly in 2007 when millions of us, not hundreds of millions, but millions of us, went to war to get President Obama elected, but then instantly retreated from the field. We saw it again in 2012 when hundreds of thousands of us, millions of us, went to war to elect him. But now there's a chance the army will be staying on the field. So I expected to be announcing to you that I was ending the death fast to throw everything I had to get ready for the organization to begin to show us how to devote ourselves. I don't need anyone to show me, but I can't speak for them. I can't control what avenues they might open, and my expectation is they would be menial, like the menial opportunity I had and took to make 700 phone calls, more than 700 phone calls, to help get President Obama reelected. But that's okay. By throwing every breath toward that organization as the opportunity unfolds, there's a prayer I could help it, in fact, help it to jump to a higher level. That's the kind of thing I've done successfully throughout my adulthood. But to my surprise and delight, earlier this morning, it came clear to me that instead I need to announce to you that I'm redoubling my commitment to the death fast and expecting that even 3-4 weeks from now, as I'm on the verge of losing mobility, I'll get myself from my post on Pennsylvania Avenue out into the woods, where I won't be found for a long time, so that the death fast can run its course. Because we have a new factor now. President Obama is not new. Your catatonic inaction is not new. By the way, if you're an exception, you know that. And you don't begrudge me speaking the truth. You appreciate me speaking the truth because you too feel desperately alone. You perceive that you're desperately alone. You see clearly that you're desperately alone in a fight that needs millions of us and thousands of us offering to pay the ultimate price. So you don't begrudge me speaking the truth. You know if you're the exception. Diane Wilson, obviously, is the exception. Bob Lindsay, obviously, is the exception. I don't know if Chief Spence is obviously the exception, as the man also on hunger strike with her Day 42 is obviously the exception. I don't know of any others. I may know others, but I don't see them. My brothers and sisters all. President Obama has not changed in the 5 years I've seen him. Greatest leader in the history of the world. Biggest heart on the planet. Bigger even than Diane's. But the field of battle has changed in that he now has an execution vehicle organizing for action. And that makes him pivotal in a way that he hasn't been up until now. It's occurred to me over the years, over the last 4 years, that the sole purpose of my life might be to try and be a message to him, to be an encouragement to him. But for what? He had no execution vehicle. What could he do with it? He was doing everything with his life that he could. But that's changed now, quite possibly. He has an execution vehicle. He has an army that he can deploy. He has an army that is listening to him, that can be impacted by him. It can't be impacted by me, but it can be impacted by him. And I saw unexpectedly this morning, having watched Lincoln, the movie, yesterday. Do you remember the millions of people that, the hundreds of thousands anyway, that inspired Lincoln? Do you remember the few that we saw that helped Lincoln? The son of that lovely woman who was black, the I don't know, house lady, I don't know what the right term is, beautifully dressed, who was a helper to both Mrs. Lincoln and Mr. Lincoln. Her son, who sent himself off to war and died, wound up in President Lincoln's heart as a source of strength, as a source of inspiration. The corporal and the private that we saw at the beginning of the movie joined the army in President Lincoln's heart as an encouragement, as a source of strength, as an inspiration. And he had an army to lead, so it mattered that his heart was helped. He could do something with that help. Well, President Obama hasn't been in that position, but he is now. And therefore, I need to announce to you that I am redoubling my commitment to the death fast. Because just as President Lincoln could not have summoned by himself the strength and courage and humanity that was needed of him, that took thousands in his heart. Well, I can't be thousands, but I can be one. It took thousands, in President Lincoln's case, hundreds of thousands, offering and paying the ultimate price to give him the strength, the clarity, the wisdom, the vision, to do his part for us. Not because he was a weak man, but because his task was humanly impossible. Well, I can't be tens of thousands, but I can be one. There's a 1 in a million chance I can be one, because you won't help me. Am I outraged at that? Yes. Am I angry at you? No. How do I know you won't help me? You wouldn't help Diane Wilson on day 46 of her hunger strike. If you're the exception, you know you're the exception. And you know that I'd have no way of knowing. But as far as I know, no brother or sister that I know and no brother or sister that I don't know lifted a finger to help her in her quest to help us. Day 46. No articles, no efforts, not from near, not from far. no commensurate efforts. So the purest heart on the planet, quite possibly next to President Obama's, she's on death's door and no one helps. So, my God, if they're not going to help Diane Wilson, they're certainly not going to help me. So there's only 1 in a trillion chance that my efforts will wind up in President Obama's heart, because he won't know. But there's that 1 in a million chance. And that didn't exist a week ago. 2 factors did exist a week ago that caused me to start this. What am I on day now? Now 19, I think. So 19 days ago, the critical mass of heart massagers, heroic, true activists, Diane, Bob, Chief Spence, the hunger striker with Chief Spence, and the possibility of a militantly unviolent indigenous uprising, which does not appear to me to be happening with nearly the intensity that is needed by history and is needed by our indigenous brothers and sisters and their children, but I do not see it except in Chief Spence and the fellow hunger striking with her. So at the same time they dissipate President Obama, and millions of my fellow citizens in the center arrive and give me reason to tell you of my redoubling my commitment to this death fast. With the plan of taking it into the forest at the end, so that I can be the payment of the ultimate price, which no one would understand, everyone would discredit, but not President Obama. His heart would know. He won't know of it, but if he did, and I have to take that chance. Except only moments ago I realized that I can't do that yet. Ethically, I have no martyr complex, friends. I have our brothers and sisters in Palestine that I'm yearning to devote my life to. I wish I were 1,000,000 and I wouldn't have enough time to do what my human family needs of me. I have no yearning to exit the stage. I have a yearning to be 1,000,000 on the stage. But I realized only moments ago I can't yet execute what I just described. It's near impossible in my mind that President Obama can have the strength to use this army not to attack climate change, not to attack global warming, but to end global warming. It's near impossible to me in my mind that he can have the strength to go for that goal, which is why thousands of us will need to offer and pay the ultimate price to give his heart that strength. But I don't know that. I don't know that he doesn't, even with our cowardice, even with our criminal apathy. I don't know that he won't, that he doesn't have that strength. And I'm not at liberty to throw away this avatar, this body of mine, without knowing that, which I can know in a matter of weeks or months. Maybe today it'll be announced. I'll be able to see the goal announced, and it will be too low. But as of now, I expect to remain on this death fast for the coming hours to see what can be learned from his inaugural speech. To see what little I may learn from the indigenous nations, including a strong heart there within that has been some conduit for me into idle no more. But my guess is that by this inauguration day night, I will end this death fast, begin rebuilding my body, my strength, prepare, redouble, re-immerse myself into the climate science, so that as avenues begin to open within organizing for action, I can devote everything I've learned and everything I've become to try and infuse energy into it, let alone expertise, in as menial a way as they offer me, to try and elevate it to the level it needs to be. Watching all the while to see if there's a 1 in a million miracle that President Obama, with even given our criminal apathy, our criminal neglect of our children's future, our cowardly neglect of our children's future, inexcusable to the Creator, inexcusable to history, will be reviled, you and I, for our criminal affluholism, our catatonic denial of what's expected and needed of us. But I'll stay away from the death fast until I can see what I expect to see, but with clarity, that without our help, President Obama can't go after fully ending global warming. Everything else being hell for the next 2,000 generations, the next 200 billion children. So it's my expectation of going aggressively after the best chemo that I can find. I don't know that I'll wind up back at my post in front of the Canadian Embassy. Not right away anyway. Preparing myself, physically and academically, now seems the best way for me to serve, on the possibility that organizing for action is where I need to devote every resource, every breath. Until I see what I expect to see, is that without our blood, that as Lincoln couldn't do what he needed without many of us paying our blood into his heart, that President Obama can't do the same, but I don't know that. So until I have clarity on that, I'll devote myself to rebuilding my avatar strengthening it intellectually in climate science and in nonviolent action and in nonviolent theory best taught by Jesus through Tolstoy and the Gospel, in the possibility that President Obama is even more of a godsend than I thought, and leading us to victory in climate change and averting ecocide.